fewer than 10,000. That's how many humans some researchers think were left alive on the entire planet, roughly 74,000 years ago. Today, more than 8 billion people share this planet with you. Back then, by this theory, the entire human species could have fit inside a single large stadium with seats to spare. The cause sat on the island of Sumatra, in what's now Indonesia, a volcano named Toba, and not a normal eruption. Geologists rank it among the largest the planet has produced in the last 2 million years, an explosion so large it left behind a crater lake nearly 60 miles long, visible from space today. It was violent enough to bury whole regions under feet of ash and punch enough sulfur into the upper atmosphere to dim sunlight worldwide for years afterward, an effect that doesn't stay near the volcano. It spreads over the entire planet, indifferent to borders or oceans. In 1998, anthropologist Stanley Ambrose looked at something strange buried in human DNA. An unusually small amount of genetic variation for a species spread across the entire globe. Far less diversity than you'd expect from millions of people, more like what you'd see in a population that had nearly blinked out and clawed its way back from a tiny surviving group. Ambrose proposed a cause. Toba's eruption triggered a volcanic winter, years of dramatically cooled, ash-choked skies, layered on top of an already cold glacial period. His theory became famous fast. Humanity, by this account, came within a hair of disappearing completely, and almost everyone alive today descends from whoever happened to make it through that bottleneck. Picture what those years were supposed to have looked like. Ash falling from a sky that hadn't shown a clear sun in months, settling into every water source, coating every leaf you might have eaten. Plants failing because there isn't enough light to grow them. Animals starving for the same reason, and you starving right behind them, competing with everything else still alive for whatever hadn't died yet. Every winter colder than the one before, with no calendar to tell you when it might end, and no memory of a winter this long ever lifting. So why does this story need a however? Because the deeper researchers dug for proof that humanity nearly died out, the harder it got to find. Archaeologist Michael Petraglia excavated a site called Jwalapuram in southern India and found something the catastrophe theory didn't predict. Stone tools made the same way, both directly above and directly below the thick layer of Toba's ash. Not a gap, not a different culture starting over from nothing once the skies cleared. The same tool-making tradition continuing right through the eruption like nothing catastrophic had happened at all. It gets harder to explain away from there. Researchers Marean and Jayne Wilkins examined 2 sites on the South African coast, Pinnacle Point and Vleesbaai, roughly 6,000 miles from Sumatra, and found microscopic shards of volcanic glass in the sediment there too, invisible to the naked eye but chemically matched to Toba, specifically under laboratory analysis. Around those same ash particles, clear evidence that people were still living at the site, still working stone tools with the same skill as before, still cracking open shellfish pulled fresh from the coastline that morning. Not barely surviving in the wreckage, rationing out the last of anything, thriving on the other side of the planet from the eruption, while the sky above them was supposedly choking out the sun. 2 sites, 2 continents, thousands of miles apart, dug up decades apart by entirely separate research teams who weren't looking to disprove each other. The same inconvenient pattern showed up anyway, life going on, unimpressed by a volcano that was supposed to have nearly finished the species off. That doesn't erase the eruption. It happened, and it was almost certainly miserable for people living anywhere near Sumatra at the time. What it challenges is the size of the story built on top of it. The idea that one eruption single-handedly explains why your genes look the way they do today. The almost extinct version makes a cleaner movie. The real picture, pieced together from ash layers and stone tools on two different continents, looks more like a rough few years for some, business mostly as usual for others, depending entirely on which patch of the planet you happened to be standing on. You live in a world that still quietly assumes catastrophe and extinction go together, that any disaster big enough to make global headlines must have nearly ended everything, everywhere, all at once. Buried in that instinct is the same story Ambrose told about Toba. One terrible event, one tidy explanation, one clean line separating before from after. Most real disasters, ancient or modern, turn out to be patchier and messier than that, devastating in one place while life carries on a few thousand miles away, almost completely untouched, busy with its own ordinary problems. So the next time you hear about an ancient catastrophe that nearly wiped out humanity, remember Jwalapuram and Pinnacle Point. Real people, on opposite sides of the same darkened sky, who never got the memo that they were supposed to be disappearing.